Oh my God, I just totally got catfished. He looks absolutely nothing like his picture.
So I found out the guy that I've been dating is married with kids. His wife just reached out to me.
Welcome to the meat market. The single scene is a slaughterhouse and we are here to devour it. We are your hosts. I'm Lindsay.
I'm Jess.
And today's sizzling single is Varesh. Woohoo, welcome.
Thank you for having me,
We have
guys.
an international man in the house. Fitting because today's International Women's Day, right?
Wait, is it today
Oh,
or
it
was
was
it
yesterday.
yesterday?
Yesterday.
Yes,
Yeah,
yesterday.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So-
Except we've got an international man, not an international. Well, we have an international woman. You're
Duh,
an international
yeah.
Yeah.
Lived in over 8 countries, yeah.
8 countries, wow.
Yeah, my father was a diplomat, so I've been around. So back to you. So I'm curious. You've been in the States for about 20 years.
Yep.
Do you notice a difference in international women versus American women?
Yes. Well, I mean, I've dated people from different parts of the country, of the world too, and there is, but fundamentally, we're human beings. We just grow up and we're a product of our circumstance and what we do. But there are certain differences. I think Indian women tend to be a little bit more conservative. But once they're out of their shell, they're not. I think American women sometimes can be a little standoffish, but maybe that's just Scottsdale, so Scottsdale. But I've met all types, so I can't really say there's like a material difference. People are people, no matter where they're from.
Well, we had heard that women now are starting to expect the man on a first date to pay for their hair and makeup. Our producer was telling us he was going to go on a first date and he got a text that said, hey, it's going to cost me $200 to get my hair and makeup done to look good for you. Here's my Venmo handle. Like, I feel like that's an American thing, right?
Totally.
Right?
I feel
Oh,
like.
that is maybe more than an American thing.
Has
That's
that ever
like
happened to you?
Oh, hell no.
No.
That would be a, like, no thank you. Enjoy your night at home doing
Enjoy
that.
your hair and makeup.
With another man.
Actually,
At
it's
another
funny.
man's expense.
When you guys had sent me that sample of one of the interviews you did, and there was this story about this, there was this discussion you guys were having about the woman expecting the man to pay for the babysitter. Mm-hmm. I'm like, wow, that is unique. And no.
So you
Would
wouldn't,
not
if a
work.
would asked you to, would that be a hard no? Would you
hard
cancel
no.
the date?
Hard no. I'm taking out time too. My time's valuable. Why don't you pay for my massage and my haircut and beard trim? Those things are not cheap these days.
That is
It's
true.
true.
Men's haircuts are getting expensive.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
a friend who has an 18-year-old son, and he's very particular about his barber. And his mom is just like,
Yes.
since when did men's haircuts become so expensive?
I was having this conversation 2 days ago, and I think I was at dinner with a couple of female friends of mine, and I was like, yeah, I'm going for a haircut. She's like, how much does that cost? $15. I'm like, where do you live? It was like $80 plus tips, so it ain't cheap. So yeah, if they want to pay for my stuff, then sure, I'll pay for this.
So you have female friends so this has been a discussion too on a couple of episodes. Do you feel that adult men and women can be friends with each other platonically if they are
Yes.
mature and healthy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But I will say, men are men. That dynamic is more pushed by women than men. Mm-hmm. It is easier for women to be friends platonically with men than it is for men with women, but men will mirror whatever the vibe is in general.
Yes.
But yes, I have a lot of interesting and fun single female friends.
That if they called you tomorrow and said, hey, Varesh, let's put our friendship aside. let's do this thing. You'd still say no?
I mean, no. Why would I do that? Like I said, I am a man.
So I have a question. Do you get people asking you stupid questions? Like when I was single, I would get so many men saying, oh, so you're from England. What language do you speak over there? Or how do you say hello in your language? Or is England the capital of France? Like, do you ever get people that are just don't know much about India or where it is? Or
Yes and no. It's kind of all over the place. But one thing I do get pretty consistently is, oh my God, your accent is like not even there. Oh, you speak English really good. And get that? It's not well, but it's good. But yeah, I think that's one of the standard ones I get is like, oh my God, your English is so good.
I get that. I used to get that a lot when I was dating. Like, oh, you're from England. What language do you speak over there? Your English is so good. Like in England, we speak English.
The Queen's English.
The Queen's English.
Right? Does your family want you to date an Indian woman or marry an Indian woman? Has that ever been a thing for you?
Been there, done that. So
Yeah.
now they don't really care that much. They just want me to be happy,
So they're not trying to arrange a marriage for you? They're not that old school?
That did happen for a while.
Okay.
But like I said, we get older and they just want me to be happy and
Yeah.
and find someone at least. They just don't want me to be alone, which I don't want either. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Are your family here or are they back in India?
Yeah, so what's left? Just my dad and I. He's here. He actually lives about a mile away from me.
Oh, nice.
So it's nice. I go see him every now and then and check up on him. He's getting older. He's 83 now. So, it's that time of life where the people that you care about are getting older and becoming more dependent. So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, that's him and I. Yep.
You know what I love about the Indian culture? So I lived in England and I had a lot of Indian neighbors and Indian friends. And I love how like a lot of the parents live with their children.
Yeah, it's not going to work for me.
Yeah, no.
I love you, Dad, but no.
I have a patient, they're an Indian family, and the mother's parents live with them, and the father's parents come and visit a few times a year, and they always stay in the house. And so it's like every time I go there for therapy, I never know who I'm going to get because so many of the family members live. And luckily they're very well off and they have a very large house.
That makes it easier.
And so they can live sort of in separate sides of the house. But that's, I feel like super common in the Indian culture.
Yeah, it is very common. And I mean, I have cousins and friends. It's like joint family system, which, in many ways it's really good because it allows everybody to rely on each other. I mean, there's a reason they say it takes a village. So childcare or just doing stuff, managing things.
Then they don't have to ask the man they're dating to pay for their childcare before you
Exactly.
because it's
Grandma's
built
home. Yeah, but I think I'm a little bit non-conformist. I'm not your typical Indian person in general. And I think I value my independence. I want to be close to people I care about, but also have space to do my own thing.
Mm-hmm. So you're very successful. Tell us what you do.
Oh, I wouldn't say it's super successful, but okay. So I'm a CEO of a healthcare year 4 startup. It's my second time around. I was co-founder, CEO of a medical group that I started with my late brother, and we grew it and exited and decided I wanted to jump back because I'm a glutton for punishment. So this is my second time trying to build a company and do something with it.
So how do you juggle your career and dating? Do you find that difficult?
It is, but I think I'm a little fortunate because, I'm older and wiser and this is my second go around. So I try and not live to work. I try and work to live, and I have a lot of different interests and things that I like to do. So I try and take out time for what is important, and relationships are one of them.
Smart. I feel like that's another difference between Americans and other countries. Here, people are so consumed with work,
Yes, that's what defines us. True.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas other countries like Europe, they close in the middle of the day for 3 hours for their siesta. Like they definitely, they work to live.
Yeah. Well, and I had made a comment in one of our previous episodes about like being productive, right? And all of the comments on social media were about work and finances. And I'm like, there are so many other ways to be productive, being physically productive, being mentally, spiritually, emotionally, philanthropically productive. Like there are so many ways to be productive in your life. But as I think it is as Americans, when we hear productivity, all we think about is work and finances. And there's like, we as humans should be so much more well-rounded than that. Shouldn't we?
We should. I mean, it's not just an American thing. Like I grew up in India and there's a lot of pressure to succeed professionally, and your identity is a lot of times tied to that. And that puts a lot of pressure on families and kids. Like I didn't grow up particularly, bright and getting the A grades. I was off playing tennis and doing things, but the pathways were limited, and it was always like, okay, if you don't do this one thing, then you are not successful, which is kind of ironic because now you said I was successful and I've never really seen myself that way. I just kind of made my way through and got lucky.
He's humble, ladies.
I think that is an important thing to be. We don't see too
Definitely.
much of that these days.
For
So
sure.
tell us about you. Let's get to know Varesh. What are your hobbies?
Okay, so I am an athlete. I've always been. So tennis has been my first sporting love.
How do you feel about
college.
pickleball, the new trend?
Oh, how much time do we have? No, look, I mean, pickleball is here to stay. I'm one of those tennis players. Typically, tennis players have like a love-hate relationship. with pickleball. They hate pickleball because it's, it's not really tennis. It's not a real sport kind of
And
thing.
it's taking over the court.
It's taken,
Yes, it is.
so that is a legitimate concern because, as it is, we don't have enough tennis courts and for the people that love the game. And I say that because I was part of the board of directors of USTA Southwest. So we used to look at metrics like how many people are playing and how many courts do we have available. So that is a real thing. But that said, I do think pickleball is fun. I do play it socially. I get the luxury that I'm a decent tennis player, so I automatically become a really good pickleball player. And people are like, oh my God, how long have you been playing? And I'm like, this is my second time.
Wow.
And then I'm like, wow. I'm like, yeah, I'm a tennis player. Yeah. So, yeah, no, I really do enjoy it. I have friends that play, and I'm actually interesting. I just got an invitation to something called Founders League. It's a pickleball league that started in Texas a few years ago by like founders and CEOs. And they just wanted to get together and shoot the shit. And that's kind of evolved into a whole league over 7 cities. So there's one starting in Scottsdale. So I met with the guy, and I'll be playing in a league.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so tennis has been a big part of my life. Golf, love golf. Hardest sport there is, but I really enjoy it. There's nothing quite like hitting a really good golf shot and then trying to finish the round, trying to replicate that as much as possible, which is the hardest thing to do.
So one of the new things now is like ladies going to golf courses to try to meet men because men.
Yeah, where? I haven't seen any.
And that's what I was just going to ask you.
Tell me, I'll set it up.
I was just going to ask you. Have you had any dating luck on the golf course?
What about cart girls? Have you ever hit on a golf cart girl?
I am not very good at hitting on people. It's weird.
No, you don't have a pickup line?
I do not. I cringe at that. And it's just not my, I think that's one of the reasons why I might be still single, because I find it really hard to approach a woman cold. Like, I'm really good at having a conversation, but going up to a stranger and trying to break the ice is I don't know.
So let's say you're in a social setting and you see the most beautiful woman that you've ever seen before and you really want to talk to her. Do you just not because you're too scared, or what do you do? What line do you use? Or
I don't. That's the thing. If somebody introduces me, then I'm happy to have a conversation, or if the circumstance happens, if we're at the bar and we're ordering a similar drink, something to like organically open up a conversation.
But otherwise, if you're sitting across the bar from each other and you're just looking at her from across the bar, do you look? Do you look away? Do you not look? Do you look down?
Yeah, I mean, of course I look.
Have you ever sent a drink over?
I have never sent a drink over.
No, maybe that's what you should do.
And I actually, to come to think of it, I don't really sit at bars alone. It's strange. I mean, sometimes I will with a laptop or whatever, but nowadays it's so difficult. Back in the day, and I'm just aging myself here, but back in the day before cell phones, people would actually sit and actually engage in conversation across the table. But now it's so hard to break that digital barrier that is in front. I mean, it was maybe a month ago, I was at Postino's. I go there and hang out sometimes and, work or whatever. I didn't have my laptop, so I was just sitting there, just people watching, and literally every single person at the bar was looking at their phone. I'm like, how am I supposed to break that barrier?
Yes.
So it's really difficult, and I think that's common these days, and that's probably why people don't meet as much organically, is because there's just too many barriers, and people are just jaded by their experiences. So
what is your ideal type?
Oh, I don't know if I have a type, but okay, so I have this thing where I feel like there's 4 dimensions to compatibility or whatever. So there's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So with that in mind, I think physically I would say somebody who's athletic. That's where I'll leave it. Mentally, somebody who is intelligent. I think I find intelligence attractive. Someone who is independent. Emotionally, somebody who's secure and emotionally vulnerable and open, because I feel like I am now. And then spiritually, somebody who has got some perspective of life, because I've been through a lot, and I find the depth that comes from people who have experienced things is at a different level. So if you get 4 of those, sign me up. But I'll be happy with 2.5.
I was just going to say that. What's your minimum
2.5.
requirement? 2.5 out of 4. Okay.
3 would be great.
Do you have any embarrassing date stories, or do you have any crazy first dates?
Yeah, I think you and I kind of briefly talked about that, and I have an update on that. So the strangest one, which I've never experienced more than once, thank God, was so I met this girl who was actually my Lyft driver. So this was a few years ago, before my last relationship. I was single, kind of doing my thing. I was going to meet some friends at the JW Marriott. There was apparently some sort of live band there. So, I'm feeling good. And I had a drink before I left, so I was feeling kind of loose. So I get in the Uber, and this girl, it was dark, so I didn't really get to see her too much, but she was like interesting and funny, and she just moved into town, and we started talking, and then talking leads to flirting. So I end up leaving the Uber ride with her phone number, and then she was going to a wedding in Florida or something for a few weeks. She came back, we connected, we end up going to this little, we ended up meeting at this place called White Rabbit. It's a little speakeasy down in Gilbert. And I was like, man, she's probably not gonna show, right? Shows up on time. I'm like, wow, I respect that. In a beautiful black dress, I'm like, damn, this is that girl? So anyway, I'm feeling pretty good. So we go inside, have a couple of drinks, and we're talking, and we're laughing, and we're just flirting and all that. I think at one point, we briefly kissed too. Maybe. But
it must have been a memorable kiss.
I was going to say, it was so dark and there were so many drinks.
So this is what happened next. So she excuses herself to go to the bathroom. I'm like, cool. Goes to the bathroom. A couple of minutes go by. I'm like, la, 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 10 minutes go by. 15 minutes go by. I'm like, shit, I hope she's okay. So I end up going to the bathroom, and there was a woman coming out, and I'm like, hey, is there a girl in there with a black skirt and everything? And she's like, no. So I'm like, hang on. What just happened here? So about 15 minutes later, she sends me a text message saying, I'm sorry, I had to leave. And that was it.
That was it? Like, did she explain?
What? No, she did not explain. She didn't explain.
What?
Just disappeared. And I'm like, did I completely misread that, or what the heck happened? So yeah, I got mid-date. I don't know if there's a term for it.
And you never heard from her. Ghosted kind of in real life.
But is that really what ghosted is? Ghosted is when...
Well, did you ever hear from her again?
No. I mean, I didn't reach out to her. And I said, have a good life kind of thing. But...
So she never explained what happened?
No.
I mean, maybe she had an upset stomach, or she got sick?
I don't know. But then why wouldn't you reach out?
So you've never heard from her since?
Nope.
Wow, that is so bizarre.
That is weird.
And what's interesting? I left. I was kind of feeling down on myself, and it was like a little bit of a, knock to my ego. Mm-hmm. And I'm going home. I'm like, shit, is this what I have to deal with?
You're like, I can't even pick up an Uber driver. What's wrong with me?
And I thought it was going gangbusters. Uh-huh. But anyway, I was heading home, and I just remember this on the drive over, and I was reading this book called The Four Agreements, which I really love. And I was like, let's just keep that into perspective. So 2 of those agreements that it talks about is don't take anything personally, and always do your best. And I was like, well, I did my best, and I'm not going to take this personally. And that was that. So that was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Smart.
So here's the opposite of that. And this happened on Saturday. Oh, gosh. I ended up doing the exact same thing to someone.
What?
But to be fair, she was out there. And 2, I explained myself. So I met this woman on an app. So this is another reason why apps are doomed, I think. It's just so transactional. Anyway, so it's like, okay, what are you doing tonight? I want to meet up for a drink. I'm like, okay. So we end up meeting at the Beverly. Beautiful woman, articulate, speaks well. She was wearing this little necklace with a little crab on it. So I made the mistake of saying, oh, you're a Cancer. And she just something clicked in her. And I swear to you, for the next 2.5 hours and 3 drinks, she could not stop talking about astrology. And she wanted to dissect everything about me. And it just got to the point, I'm like, is this, I'm happy to engage, but come on, take a breath, right? And then she goes to go to the restroom, and she's like, hey, you don't mind if I do a bump, do you? Would you want to do one? I'm like, this is a first date.
Might as well just throw it all out there.
I'm like, okay, you do you, it's cool. I'm trying to be all cool about it. And then she goes to the restroom. Again, 15 minutes go by. I'm like, no, this is not working. So I'm like, you know what? I sent her a message. I'm saying, look, I'm sorry, but this is not working. This is not what I wanted to have happen. And it seems like you're pretty busy in the restroom. So I'm just going to bounce. Be safe. Have a good evening. And then she texts me like an hour and a half later. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't, I'm sorry I took so long. Can I come over? I'll make it up to you.
Wow.
I swear, I'm not making this up.
That's crazy.
It was weird.
Did you pay the tab before you left, though?
Yeah, of course.
You did?
I did, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
you didn't leave. You didn't
so
leave
I
her
was
stuck with
paying
the
as I
bill.
went along because I don't like to leave my card open. But,
Yeah.
How old was this woman?
she said she was 31, but who the hell knows?
Wow.
That's probably why she felt like she could text you that. She was like, well, he liked me enough to pay for the date, so why don't I just
I don't know
make
what
a
was going on in there, but
suggestion.
wasn't doing it for me. So, yeah. So I guess
That's crazy.
full circle.
But it happens on the other side too, because we interviewed a woman last night and same thing happened to her. The guy went to the restroom and never came back.
Really?
Mid-dinner, and left her with the tab. Like, that
Left
I'd
her
be
with the
pissed,
tab
yeah.
too. Wow, that's
So it's not just you.
Yeah.
It seems like it
Yeah.
happens a lot.
It
shit.
does.
And this is why I think online dating is.
This is why there are so many
Ridiculous.
single people out there nowadays. People just treat people so poorly.
Why is that? Why is that there's so many? Like I have so many really interesting, smart, funny single women friends who say they have so many single, interesting, smart men, single friends, but why is it that we can't find each other?
That's why we started this podcast,
That's why
And good for
Varesh.
you.
Bring them all
Good
together.
karma. Good karma. Yeah.
So send us all your referrals. Send us
I
all
will.
of your friends.
Absolutely.
Bring them to the meat market.
Uh-huh.
Are you ready for it?
I'm ready for it. The Keep More Minute, sponsored by Tactical Tax Strategies. They help you keep more in your wallet. We help you keep more in your love life. Today's listener question comes to us from Delilah. She says, my boyfriend is Jewish and I am so in love with him. His family are a little cold to me and I fear it is because they don't approve of me. They are all devout Jews and want him to marry someone in the same religion. I am not religious, but I am spiritual. I'm not sure I could ever convert and it breaks my heart, but deep down, I just don't think it's going to last. Am I wasting my time?
Wasn't there a show about this with Kristen Bell and Adam Brody?
I don't know.
Remember,
I
and
don't
he
remember.
was
Oh, he was a
Jewish?
rabbi.
A rabbi.
Yes,
And he fell
it
in
was
love
a
with
comedy
Kristen
show,
Bell.
yes.
But she wasn't Jewish, and
Yep.
he needed to.
That's correct. That
It's
is
kind
correct.
of that's tough because I feel like certain religions they really do want you to marry within their religion, and they're very strict about that, right?
Yeah. I think it'd have to be a conversation with the whole family about expectations. Because if there isn't a conversation about expectations, then how do you know whether you're expected to convert or not?
Yeah.
So it's like I think there needs to be like a family dinner.
Well, I mean, I think the first conversation has to be with the man.
Yes, for sure.
Because family is one thing, but you have to know where your partner stands in this. And I mean, I'll be honest, I was smiling when this question came up because I had exactly the same experience. I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, I'm agnostic. I do believe there's a higher power, but I'm not a big fan of organized religion. And my ex is extremely religious. And when we talked about it in the beginning, and I was like, look, religion is a very personal thing. So you do you. I respect that as long as you can respect my viewpoint and it doesn't spill over into our life, right? Unfortunately, it does come in. So I think it's very important not just to have one static conversation about it, but keep probing that because sometimes it will show up. And I had that happen, and that was one of the things that just caused me to question whether this person was mine or not. So
I feel it's unfortunate because it's so hard to find love nowadays. It's so hard to find someone that you would want to spend the rest of your life with. And it's unfortunate that you do find someone and then religion kind of prevents you from being together.
I know. My guilty pleasure is 90 Day Fiance. And it's always on every single season, there's always one or two women or men from the US that end up falling in love with like a Muslim person. And it's always, they always end up breaking up because the families cannot accept someone who who won't convert, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's just like, it's hard. That's hard.
My brother had his heart broken one time in his life. And my brother's such a good guy.
What a lucky
he
guy.
He treats women so well. And he was dating this Mormon girl. And he was so into her. And he treated her so well. But she ended up breaking up with him because he wasn't Mormon.
He wouldn't convert.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess if the two people are completely aligned there, then there is strength to endure the family. But that's something you have to really know for sure before you go down that path. So.
Agreed. So now we're going to discuss an article from the New York Times. It's about therapy and how therapy is becoming more common and acceptable in today's society. So did you know that AZ is consistently ranked the worst place to date in the entire country?
That explains a lot.
I was going to say, I believe it.
So, and it's based on
Which one's the best? I'm moving there. No, just kidding.
So it's based on the high rate of romance scams, ghosting, high unemployment rate, and lack of mental health providers.
Interesting.
And it makes me sad because I remember when I gave birth to my two girls, my anxiety was off the roof, and I'm like, maybe I should go see someone. But no one would accept insurance, period. They were like, we only take cash. And that's hard. A lot of people, and it's expensive. A lot of people, we have insurance for a reason, to help us pay our medical bills. And if they don't accept our insurance, a lot of people don't have hundreds of dollars for each session. Yep. So that's a big reason. Anyways, this article states that nowadays dating comes with its own dictionary, a collection of buzzwords like breadcrumbing. Have you heard breadcrumbing?
No, what is that?
So it's like...
It's when someone gives you just a little bit to keep you coming. So you're like Hansel and Gretel picking up the breadcrumbs, chasing after the person. They don't give you like their full on self, but they just leave a trail of breadcrumbs.
Leading you on without committing.
Yes.
So,
yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Ghosting, you know what ghosting is? And then zombieing. Have you heard what zombieing is?
Coming back
you
from
know
the dead.
All these terms.
Oh yeah, because I have zombies come back all the time. I just had a zombie come back. I had a guy that I hadn't spoken to in a year text me out of the blue, like a zombie back from the dead, like 2 weeks ago.
Is it because he just wants to hook up?
Probably.
What are you doing tonight, baby?
Oh, so that's what it is. Zombies, like somebody from your past coming back.
Yes.
Guilty.
So it says, but in recent years, psychology terms like love bombing, gaslighting, and trauma bonding have also wedged their way into the lexicon. Dating apps are now offering prompts like, therapy taught me blank, a boundary of mine is blank, and my therapists say I would blank. People are asking, what does connection look like to you? And around the third date, they initiate discussions about their prospective partner's attachment style, a tidy summation of childhood trauma. This terminology isn't unusual nowadays. Therapy-related words and phrases have trickled into workplaces, surfaced at schools, and galvanized people online. In the 50s or even the 80s, it would be hard to imagine that saying, I see my therapist regularly would have status. But now, taking care of one's mental health carries social currency in some spheres. You see a therapist, right? And you say it's very, very helpful.
Yep, it is. It has been. I was one of those, like, I'm a Gen Xer, so, like, figure your shit out. But I do believe in it. In fact, I am pretty close to that field because we are implementing behavioral health in our primary care clinics. Precisely for the reason that you mentioned, there is a lot of barriers to entry for access to behavioral health, right? So you have to pay a large copay, and a lot of times therapists won't even accept insurance and their cash pay. So we're trying to figure out a way around it and really integrate it with the physical health component because it is all one, right? For some reason, Western medicine has this idea that, physical medicine is distinct from mental medicine and spiritual or emotional medicine. But now there is more and more research that is coming out that we're all kind of one, and having that behavioral or mental health component to it is so important. But yes, personally, I think it allows me to get out of my echo chamber. I think we all have our echo chambers and our sort of conversations we have with ourselves that are often reaffirming of our own beliefs. So I think the biggest thing for me is to get a perspective outside of that echo chamber and then be able to reflect on it and maybe find some lessons.
One of the points in that article that I thought was really interesting, and I think it was geared more towards women using it as an indicator of whether they wanted to go out with a man or not, is, do you go to therapy? And if he says yes, it's an indication that he's financially stable because therapy is so expensive.
It's true.
And I never thought about that until I read that in the article. article, and I was like, wow. I was like, that kind of is a point, I
Right?
guess.
It's all about the money.
He must have money. He sees a therapist. They see the dollar signs.
Exactly.
That's funny.
Exactly.
Well, then it says like, instead of being like, I'm 5'11" and I can bench press some large amounts, it's like now people are like, I've grappled with the challenges of my childhood and I've thought deeply about my issues. It says now we're selling mental health. A study asked participants to rank what they're looking for in a prospective partner, expecting the usual answers: sexual attractiveness, trustworthiness, humor, similar interests. But this time respondents wanted matches with emotional maturity and the ability to process and grapple with one's feelings.
You still have to, though, get to know someone fairly well to see if that's true. Because, you know, on a dating profile, anybody can write, oh yeah, I'm healed. I've dealt with my childhood trauma.
Oh yeah.
I see a counselor. I've done the work. You know, anybody can say that, but it's like you have to really spend some significant time with someone to figure out if that really is the case or not, right?
And you have to personally be willing to see yourself as flawed.
Yes.
And I have a lot of examples of people that do exactly that, where they're all about the mental health, but it's sometimes just it's the front, and there is some deep insecurity hiding behind that they have not addressed.
Yes.
And unless you do that on your own personal level, it's all just a show, and then it just becomes a skin that you put out there along with whatever else you put as a skin to come out a certain way. So yeah, it's interesting. It's super interesting.
Couple more things. It goes on to say that in the 60s and 70s, that's not what we were trying to sell. We were trying to sell intelligence, being fun, being creative, being career oriented. Now we're trying to sell mental health. A growing number of people now are broadcasting intimate, specific details, including proclamations about their mental health. It's a technique used to both signal your values and to weed people out. If therapy is essential to you, for example, you might not want to date someone who's never been. How would you date someone that's never been to a therapist?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you know, everybody's got their own journey. Maybe some people are lucky and they're pretty emotionally well regulated by themselves. But I'm not opposed to or against. But I will say, if somebody is vehemently against going to therapy, I think that is a limiting factor, because then you're not willing to grow and evolve. And, you know, I've been in long relationships, and relationships don't stay static. You have to be willing to work at it and, you know, hear each other and speak to each other, which surprisingly becomes more difficult the more you get to know people, because we all have expectations of each other, right? So if somebody is completely opposed to it, that I don't need therapy, then I'll be like, we all do. So.
And then it ends by saying, you know, therapy suggests that you've done the work. In other words, you're enlightened, you're the best version of yourself, and you're ready to go.
No.
No?
Not at all. Not at all.
So now it's time for the celebrity cut, where we marinate in the juices of the celebrity. And I want to talk about that movie, Anora, that won like every single award. And it's a movie about a sex worker that falls in love with the son of a Russian oligarchy. And then his family's trying to break them up. Again, you were always talking about how now sex workers are becoming more, you know, common. It's less taboo. And that won the award for, what was it? Best picture, best actress, best screenplay, best director, best editing. Like, the list goes on.
They got a lot. Yep.
Have you seen it?
I have not. I did see the Oscars, and I was like, that is one of them. That and The Brutalist, I think, are really good. The one that won with Adrian Brody.
I love him. I was going to go see that, and then I saw it's like almost a 4-hour movie.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, for real?
Oh my God.
Okay.
So that's what happened with Anora. So this week, after we talked about that, we were going to talk about this. I rented it off of Prime.
You can rent it now?
You can,
It took, it's like $5.99 for a rental, and Prime gives you 48 hours to watch it. It took me the entire 48 hours because I cannot watch a movie without falling asleep. But it was spicy.
Ooh.
It was like,
I was spicy.
like, thank God I'm not watching this with my mother, because it was like, it was graphic. Like, but it's a great movie.
And apparently it was made with like a $35 million budget, which is bizarre.
Yes.
Yeah. And it won everything.
Yes.
I do, having not seen it, I did see The Substance, and I think Demi Moore did amazing.
Oh, no. I'm talking about Anora.
You know, I know, but I'm like, that was one category where I was hoping that Demi Moore would have won,
win.
because...
Was she good in that? I heard that movie was terrible. Was it good?
Oh, it's good. It's dark. It's really dark. I mean, it depends on what you like, but it's like...
Isn't it kind of fakey though?
I mean, to a certain extent, but it also exposes a lot of like darkness stuff that I think we all struggle with, specifically loneliness and trying to fit in and all that stuff. So it's an interesting study into that.
And I
in
like
the
Demi Moore. I
darkest
think she's
way.
beautiful. She's aged so well. She is so gorgeous. So where do you take someone on a first date?
Somewhere low key. I don't believe in doing like elaborate dinners on the first date. I also don't. I think it should be interactive. So one of my go-tos has been this place called Wonder Spaces.
Oh, I've never had
It's
that.
like an interactive
Pictures.
art thingy, and you
Yeah.
walk around it, and it's kind of you have conversation. You walk around
Where's that?
Old Town.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good spot. And you just
Don't they
kind
have different rooms with different stuff?
They do,
'Cause you,
yeah,
like,
and they
take
keep changing
pictures
it,
and
and
they
that's
do?
why it's
Okay.
kind of nice to go back to,
Okay.
because they keep changing the installations, so they're
Okay.
like interactive art exhibit, if you will. So that, or just like a low key. I go to hot yoga at the studio down in South Scottsdale, and there's a little wine and beer place right next to it called Rift. Shout out to Rift. It's a good spot. It's
Do you go to
casual.
Hot Yoga University?
No,
I was
it's
like,
called
that's
Blue
radio.
Buddha.
Okay.
But Karen, who was the owner of Hot Yoga, she broke off and started this studio.
Yeah, she did years ago.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, I'll have to check it out then.
Yeah, it's like a
'Cause I
small
liked it when
studio.
She owned it too. But
Yep.
yeah.
Just one studio. Some of the classes get a little too busy, and I don't like that because it's hot yoga. But otherwise, the community is cool. They have a little coffee shop there. It's neat. It's just a
Okay.
good vibe. Yeah. So one of those.
Do you have a unique talent or something that you don't tell many people?
A unique talent.
Or a secret or...
I'm a pretty good dancer. Does
Really?
that count?
What
Yep.
kind of dancing? Like,
I like Latin.
really?
I think I think I am somewhere Latin American somewhere because
In a past life.
love the music, love the food, love the dance, love the women. So, yeah.
Now it's time for the juiciest segment of the show, the meat
Uh-oh.
grab.
The
Are you
meat grab.
down for the challenge, up for the grab, willing to share? Pick one if you dare. Some are
more than a
innocent,
piece of
some
meat,
are
you
not
know.
so innocent.
Okay, what am I supposed to do? Read the question? Oh, shit. Okay. Would you be open to a polyamorous relationship?
Ooh.
Wow. Maybe? I mean, I have never been in that situation. I do have a friend that was in an E&M relationship, which I thought was kind of interesting.
What is that?
So ethical non-monogamy. So it's not polyamorous, where it's like a group, but each of the partners has one other person outside of the relationship. But it's emotional monogamy. So the two partners are the core. That's it. And then you just find interesting things
Because is it
outside
because
of
they're
that.
not compatible sexually with each other?
No, they just feel like it's too one-dimensional to be completely monogamous for your whole life.
Okay.
And I think that's an interesting perspective. So
is.
I'm certainly not square, so I'm not opposed to it, but I've never been in that situation. But I guess that's official now. I would be open to it.
Don't they say that monogamy is created by society? Like, we're not supposed to be monogamous? And,
Yeah.
And you say, the happiest couples that you know aren't monogamous.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a couple of friends that are in similar,
Interesting.
like emotional, or what did you call it? Not emotional.
E&M.
E&M.
Yeah.
Yeah. That are in situations, that are in relationships
Yeah.
like that. And they've been married my one friends have been married for 10 years. They're celebrating their 10-year wedding anniversary, and they've been together for 15. And that's they've always had.
It's fascinating to me. I mean, obviously you have to be really, really emotionally mature to be able to handle something like that. But if you are able to, with therapy and whatnot, then, why not?
And communication. I think that's the other thing.
Oh, 100%.
Not just emotional
100%.
maturity, but you have to know how to
Yeah.
communicate with your partner.
I don't
want
want to know the details, though. I'm happy not knowing
yes.
the intimate details
Yeah.
of whatever. but
Right.
hey,
Exactly. I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't want to know details.
What I don't know can't hurt me.
Yeah.
But no, with the monogamy thing, it's interesting because I was reading some article somewhere because back in the day, our life expectancy was 45, right? So you get married at about 20, you have kiddos, and you're done by 45. Now we're living to 90 plus. So
That's
imagine being
true.
with someone for 60, 70, 80 years of your life. That's a long time,
Yeah.
especially in today's ADD culture. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have a friend that he's married and they have an open marriage and they're on a swingers cruise now, and I see their pictures and it looks so much fun. They're having like the time of their life. So to each their own.
To each their own.
And they're super happy.
Different strokes for different folks.
So if you met the right person, if you met the right two girls, you would be in a polyamorous relationship. You're open to it?
Yeah. I guess I am now. I mean,
I won't get one free. 2 for 1.
I said it on air, so I guess I am. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I'll report back.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this week at the Meat Market, and thank you so much, Varesh. If you want to meet Varesh, take him on a date, go to themeatmarketpodcast.com or our socials at Meat Market Podcast. Send us a DM. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. And thank you so much to our sponsor, Tactical Tax Strategies. If you want to preserve your wealth this tax season and keep more in your wallet, Tactical Tax Strategies is the one for you. See you next week at the Meat Market. Oh my God, I just totally got catfished. He looks absolutely nothing like his picture.
So I found out the guy that I've been dating is married with kids. His wife just reached out to me.